All right. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to my first episode of Sets Podcast. So if you've heard me on podcasts here before, you know that I did something with my wife for some time called Committed to Us, and then eventually went over to something called Committed. And now we're here, and we got it to be super simple, and now it's just called Sets Podcast. And I started this because I want to have conversations about things that I'm constantly thinking about and want to expand on my thoughts more. And I also want to bring on people that I'm interested in to have conversations with. Um, so yeah, it's just a place to express myself and talk about things that I like to talk about with people that I would like to speak to. So yeah, so I just thought it'd be good for me to say that on the very first episode. Today, I want to talk about a thought that I've had for, well, I guess it's not a thought that I've had. I think it's more of like a way of thinking that I recently just come upon. And the thought started with like, I realized that people have a really hard time saying, like, I don't know. Like, everybody has an answer for something. And I feel like this is really big in our culture right now with social media. You know, like for me, I think when I think about my life, most of the time I didn't know what I was doing. So let me even start there. So like when I think about me as a child, right? Like, or if you even if you just think about what a child is, right? Like if you think about what a child is, it's like you're born in the world and you're super vulnerable. You don't know anything, and everything that you eventually can do, you learn from somebody else. And I think that's the most vulnerable time of your life is when you're a baby. Like you don't know anything, and you become one and two and three, and you grow and you start to know things, right? And like I even look at my kids, right? I'm like, let's say for example, like I want to like I've had this thing about wanting to learn another language. I don't think I've told you. Have I told you this?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I want to learn Spanish for whatever reason. And I think about my baby Quincy. She's the youngest, and she doesn't know English yet, but she hears it around us all the time. And then my two older daughters, they started speaking English because the languages they're around. It's the language that they are around, and they don't start speaking fluently for like until they're like two. So I was like, man, that's a good life lesson for me. It's like, okay, like it takes time to learn something when you don't know nothing at all. And when I think about today's society and how everybody has an answer, I think about how dangerous that actually is. And when I think about my life and how I've been able to attain the things that I wanted to attain, it all came from a place of being okay with I don't know. Like me not knowing something actually made me better, actually made me achieve all the things that I wanted to accomplish. And if I give one hard concrete example, so recently in my life, the past couple of years, I've been really interested in nutrition because I thought I was always a pretty healthy person because I played football and I worked out and I ate, but I ate to gain weight and to maintain myself, and I worked out to make sure that I can be strong to essentially like compete and fight with other football players. But since my transition from football to being a dad, it's like the way that I was going about my life, the way that I would eat and the way that I would work out wasn't really matching with what my life is right now. Like being a dad and being a husband and like not really sleeping much. Like I had to change some stuff up. So I started to look online and like realize that like everybody has like these answers for nutrition. Like everybody has like, you need to do this, don't eat this, follow this diet, don't drink this much water, don't sauna this much. Da, 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 da. And I got tired of that because every time you look online, there's like some answer for the right diet. So I hit up my nutritionist. Her name's Jess, and she told me about a DNA test that you take, and you essentially what this DNA test does is they take your DNA and they show you all the things your body is should eat, like what you should be eating, what you shouldn't be eating, what deficiencies you have, and it's super complex and it's super like thorough. And when I did that, I'm like, damn, everybody needs this because everybody's different. Everybody's body's different. You know what I mean? So I'm like, everybody needs this. And the only way that you really can find the answer is if you like go the extra mile for what you need, like finding the right thing for what you need. Does this make sense
Yeah,
so
yeah,
far?
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. So for me, not so. So if you don't know something, like, how do you get to like knowing the right answer for yourself? You know what I mean? Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
I guess the question I would ask you is, how do you know, like, who are you basing your right answers on? Is it just yourself and what you believe? If everyone has an answer, who are you using to kind of like tell you who the true experts are and who's not the experts?
See that's what's hard though, bro. Because like I try my best not to find my answers from other people first. Like I'm always trying to be like, all right, like what's wrong? What are the symptoms that are happening? Where do I think that came from? Right? Like so if I'm sick, I'm like, all right, like I'm sick. Who was I around that was sick? Was anybody like when I went to the gym, when I dropped my kids off at school, whatever, was somebody sick? I'm like, okay, I don't remember anybody being sick. So maybe I'm the first person to catch this. Okay, what do I have? Based on the symptoms that I've had, I've been sick. I'm 30 now. I've been sick X amount of time. So I know what this is and what kind of medication and stuff that I need. Now, on another level, if it's like, all right, like how, like let's talk about working out. Like if I want to work out, why do I want to work out? Starting there. Okay, I want to work out because I I'm looking for a certain aesthetic of my body, right? So if I start them, okay, I want a certain aesthetic. Well, in my head, I'm like, all right, well, I can only achieve a certain aesthetic based on my own um genes and like based on my own genes. So then I'll start to look for people of my same race doing the same kind of things that I've done growing up, i.e. playing football, like are my height, whatever, and kind of see, okay, like can I find somebody like that who has the same kind of like body type as me and what kind of working out that they do. Once I find that out, I'm like, all right, I don't want to lift weights. I want to do calisthenic stuff. So now it's finding somebody. So it's like basically narrowing down your expert based on what you want rather than going to the expert of like who has essentially all the answers. Like there's like these huge podcasts like obviously like I like this podcast, so I'm not talking down on him, but like Dr. Huberman, he has all the answers to these things, right? Because he's a scientist. It's his job to like look at the science and figure out what it is to solve the problem in which people are having. So he will be a good resource, but he's just a resource. He's probably not going to give you all the answers. So for me, like I'm trying to like my hair's thinning and I'm trying to grow my hair back. I listen to Dr. Huberman's podcast because I'm like, okay, he's somebody I can listen to because he talks about the science of it. When I was looking at like hair stuff to like get my hair fuller from thinning out, I would go to like regular YouTube people who were doing it using like certain products or using like derma rollers and whatever, and I would try some of the stuff, and it never felt right to me because I felt like the root of the problem I didn't know the information to. So listening to Dr. Huberman's podcast, he broke down what causes hair loss, the true stuff and the false stuff about it, and what products to use, what products not to use, and the products that you do use, the side effects of that. So now I have a big picture of like what this thing is. So now I can choose based on his expertise of being a scientist is also like what I'm willing to not suffer, like what I'm willing to not suffer from, for the lack of a better term, of the side effects of some of the stuff. Right. For example, like finasteride essentially like can like have like some like sexual defects or something. I'm like, okay, I ain't going for that. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna use that stuff. So, but I will derma roll and I will use a product called these products that I use from this company called Plant Made because they have all the right nutrients and stuff. So now I have a system for what I'm going to use based on my needs, based on this expert that I found, rather than the people who I found on YouTube who's just trying things to grow their hair back. So to answer your question, I feel like you have to understand what it is that where the problem or the symptom or the desire is coming from, who you are as a person, what do you need, and who can you look for who has the answers within that respective desire of yours. That makes sense?
Yeah, I guess my one question would be, like, you use Dr. Huberman as like an example. Why would you, what led you to like trust him over maybe like someone else, for
See,
example?
this is the hard thing too, because I'm not gonna sit up here and lie. It's because he has a big following.
Sure.
He has a big following, and everybody listens to him, and he has credibility. He does work at Stanford, right? He is a scientist there. And then the more I knew about him and his background, his desire is to give these answers to people because he didn't have these answers for himself when he was young. So therefore, I know that the reason for him doing this, giving these answers, just comes from a real place and a problem that he has. So therefore, I know that I would think that he cares, right? So, and let's be real, like if people have a large following, if somebody's chose to be a captain on a football team, there's a reason as to why, and most of the time it's for good reasons. Now you can argue and say like some people have big followings for bad reasons. So I say like somebody like Andrew Tate. Like Andrew Tate has a huge following, and here's the thing: like what he's trying to do, I think his intentions are. The only word that I can think of is good. I think his intentions are good to motivate young men to stand on their own 2 feet, and to be good men or to be leaders is what he's doing. But his packaging is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But the reason why he has a large following is because he's motivating these young men to like lead well. But I would never follow him because of his packaging, the way he does things. But I'm not going to take away why he has a large following, because obviously he's solving problems for somebody and not just causing controversy. Because there's people who say crazy stuff online all the time, but there's no depth or no real problem that they're probably solving. So to answer your question is like, if somebody has a large following or is the line leader or is the captain of the football team, it's for a good reason. So therefore, I'm going to go to that resource and figure out, okay, why are they there? What information do they have? And how can I apply that into my own life? But just because somebody has a massive following or people follow them doesn't mean that they are for you. You know what I'm saying? They're for a bunch of other people, but might not be for you. Like for me, I always find people online who are always small, and then out of nowhere they become big because I like look for the right kind of people. So like my friend, like Montel Fish, like I found Montel Fish when he was super small, super small. Now he's huge. And I always told him like, bro, you're going to be huge because your heart and what you're doing comes through your art. Just stay consistent. He's with Daniel Caesar now and all these things, doing great things. You know what I'm saying? Like another artist like Cleo Sol. I found Cleo Sol when she was small. And now I think she's big in the UK. But I think she's going to be huge at one point because her music is so real, and you can tell it's coming from a real place. And yeah, so
Where do you like? I mean, you're a content creator and you have a big following. So where do you feel like you fit into this conversation? Because like I think people could perceive you as giving answers as well.
well, that's a really good question, because I think for me, I'm always so I heard something recently where it's like when you're solving solutions and when you're getting solutions for the problems in your own life, we're all going through the same thing. And if you're brave enough to share those things, you're going to help somebody by you solving the problems that are in your life. So by default, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm an ex NFL player. I've always been a leader, and I'm a mentor. So by me talking about the problems that I'm actually really solving in my life, I'm giving answers. I'm giving answers to the people within my roles. Now, anything outside of that, it's like I can't choose who messes with me depending on the things that I talk about. They're attached to the things that I talk about based on their own experiences and the roles that they're in. So I don't know if I'm an expert in these things. I'm in these roles, and I love being a husband and a father and an ex-football player and whatever. But I only speak about the things that I've been through and the problems that I've actually solved, or I'm talking about the things that I haven't solved and how I'm actually doing the thing to solve that problem. And I think that takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of like looking in the mirror, which is what I love doing. Like that's my bread and butter, is looking in the mirror and like getting better every single day. So one of my favorite content creators is Jordan Peterson. Whether you love him or not, he's speaking about things from his own expertise of having a hard childhood, being an alcoholic, being a professor, being a clinical psychologist, and all these things that he was doing. He's using those things to speak upon the world, and he's impacting people because he's went through real life things, solved the real problems that he was going through. And now people want to get behind him and listen to him.
Like, how do you build trust with people when you're talking about like all the different ways that there's so many people with answers? How do you know that they should like trust your answers?
Well, I don't know if the trust is really within my answer because I think when I'm finding answers, I don't know if I'm really ever looking for an answer from people. I'm looking for different ways to experiment to find my own system. So I might hear one thing from Jordan Peterson. I might hear one thing from Dr. Huberman. I might hear one thing from Sadhguru. I might hear one thing from my wife. I might hear one thing from Jess. And I'm finding like all these different things to make my system work based on the information that people have. Because if it'd be crazy as hell for me to go out and just look for one answer from somebody, and I've done that before. Like in the beginning of COVID, I remember when I was like trying to distance my way from like Christianity and stuff. I'm like trying to find the answer. Like, is it meditation? It is whatever. And when I went through that path, I'm like, damn, there is no one answer. I gotta like experiment with all these different things and figure out what's right for me. Like when I play football, like it's like I'm not about to go and do one drill and think I'm about to be a baller. I have to do 10 other damn drills. And I get one drill from my strength coach, one from my position coach, one from my head coach, one from the D coordinator. So you have to find different what's the word, not attributes, or it's not even answers. Like you have to find the right things in a formula of some sorts to find out what works specifically for you. So for example, like going back to the whole DNA test about the food and stuff, it's like I did one DNA test and there's 10 sheets of all these different foods that I can eat. And some of them are experimental and some of them are like, no, like you should not be eating this. You shouldn't eat this much salt because of your blood and your past DNA and like your family has high blood pressure and whatever. That's a fact. That's my DNA. You see what I'm saying? But all the other things about like, if you do this, this can boost this or make this lower. So there's never just one answer. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what is so interesting that like people swear they have the damn answers. It's like, none of us really know what we're doing. Like we're just trying to figure it out. And I think you figure it out through experimentation and finding the people who, I mean, would you say it's finding people who you trust? Like who do you listen to? Would you say you trust them or are you just interested in what they're saying? Like, I guess there is a little bit of a trust component somewhat.
Yeah, at some point, you know, if you think about anything, like if you're not in the mix, like buying a house, like I know nothing about mortgages. So at some point I'm not going to be fully educated in time. Like there's just no way. So I have to trust someone's expertise, someone's thought process, because I genuinely don't know the answer. So I think that's where like the trust comes in. And I think like on a broader scale, like you're talking about Dr. Huberman or whoever it is, you don't have all the answers. You've admitted, you know, I don't know for whatever you're talking about. And I think you have to then, you're putting trust in something or someone to give you some answer. But I think you're right in saying like maybe it's a recipe or like you're taking a little bit of different people's answers rather than just one and banking on that one answer. You're like kind of diversifying your trust, if you will.
And I wonder if like in today's day in social media that, you know, because things can easily go viral now. And if you have an answer that like covers the masses, like, okay, if you eat peanut butter, this will lower your cholesterol by like 50%. Like everybody's eating damn peanut butter. And it's like, but how do you know? Like, how do you know that? Like the person who's saying it and also like the people who are actually taking the information, like, why aren't you questioning it? Like, what's wrong with asking a question? Like, okay, I don't know. How do I know if you know? Like, how do you know if they know? It's up to you to do the research yourself and figure out like, okay, I actually want to try this to see if it does work. But not just like eating the peanut butter and you don't feel good and you still eating the damn peanut butter because it's supposed to work. It's like that, like why? And I feel like that's what people do. It's like you're so focused on getting the information from somebody else that if you try the thing and you don't feel good doing it, you're willing to go through the pain of not feeling good only to get this end result of like, to get the end result because this person says that they know when you really, really don't know if they know. So I think everybody just has to like pause a little bit and like ask themselves like, okay, like am I sure that I know this? Or am I sure that this person knows what they're talking about? Like, I feel like that's something that everybody has to do because everybody swears they have an answer. Like for me with my content, it's like, I'm never saying do this or do that. I'm just talking about what I do and how this helps me, and that's it. And people find answers within that for themselves by questioning, okay, what am I doing in my house? What am I doing as a husband and a father? And some people find it as like like on the negative side of like, don't tell me what to do. It's like, well, if you really listen to what I'm saying, I'm not telling you what to do. Or I'm not trying to shame anybody I'm not trying to shame anybody on how they do or don't do something. I'm just speaking from my perspective. And I feel like that's the way that it should be. Now, if I am a nutritionist and I have a real answer based on data, and I'm saying you need to do this, then it's a little different because I have an education on nutrition or something. That makes sense?
Yeah. So I guess my question is, I think that this conversation can make someone go insane. Like, I think it's because then it's like, oh, I question everything. I don't know the answer. Who do you trust? Like, I think that just goes down that can go down like a really dark path.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say is like unanswered, almost like bring peace to someone about this conversation?
Well, I think the first thing is like, everybody feels like you. Like, none of us know. But I think the beautiful thing about today's world is like, you can find out. Like, you can literally find out. And I think you got to find the things, the people, and the resources to get the right answer for yourself. Like, don't just depend on one person or one book or one article or one thing somebody said to you or one TikTok that you saw. Like, take all those things into account and figure out, okay, where am I going to start? I got this from this book. I got this from this TikTok. I got this from this person. I'm going to try one of these things from each of these resources and then try them for a while. And then once I try them for a while, what's working, what's not working, what do I like, what don't I like? What don't I like, but it's actually working? Do I have to sacrifice myself and actually do that thing? So it's all about experimentation from the information that you're getting rather than like hoping that one answer just does it for you. Because that's the part that defeats people. It's not the fact of like, not knowing, because I feel like when people don't know, they do try, even if it's a little bit. But I think the quick defeat and the defeat in like thinking that one answer from one resource is going to work, that's what defeats people. So the big thing is like experimentation and trying and not being afraid to fail or not, and also like doing the thing and it probably getting worse because you're experimenting. Like, that's happened to me so many times where like I try to do something and I want to get better at it and I find a resource and it's like, that was the wrong one for me, and I went backwards and I got to figure it out and find another one and then do it. Like, that's always what's going to happen, man. Like, the beginning of anything is always hard. Anything. Like, I'm talking to my brother right now and he's trying out in Canada, and my brother's we play football all our life, and like, it's hard. I'm like, and I reminded him yesterday, I'm like, bro, like, always remember when you start something whenever you start something, it's always hard, no matter what. Like, even like I think about when I'm cooking these meals, like I cook like this Chipotle meal at home. And when I first started, it was terrible. Like, it was like not that good. And now I cooked it last week. I'm like, damn, this is good. Because I know how to season the meat really well. I know how to like cook the corn right. I know how to like do the rice right. I know how to like the right temperature to cook the peppers and the beans and stuff. And now it's all really good and it's all super flavorful. But it took repetition of me trying different things and looking at the recipe and trying different temperatures with the stove and trying different like measurements of like salt and stuff. So it just takes time. Now that I have that skill with the Chipotle meal, we're gonna have good Chipotle meals forever as long as we want to eat it. You know what I'm saying? So to circle back to the question, it's like, I think the biggest thing is like knowing that you're not the only one. Everybody feels this way, and you have the capabilities of finding the answers. But start with yourself and what you actually really want. And once you start there, start finding different resources and experimenting with the things that you trust from those resources simultaneously, rather than just like one answer from like the biggest health podcast in the world. And I think like there's a huge benefit, or there's a huge, honestly, like piece of like not knowing something. Like, I think in my younger years, I think I don't know caused panic. Because the fear of the unknown is like the worst feeling ever. Like, pregnancy is the worst damn thing ever. Like, and I ain't even carrying the damn baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the worst thing ever. Because like, you get a baby growing, baby's getting bigger, belly's getting bigger. Is everything good in there? When the birthday comes up, are we gonna be good? Are the doctors gonna be all right? Is Charlotte gonna survive? Like, all this shit is going on in my head because you just don't know. But once it starts, game time. And what what gets you the game time, right? It's understanding and being okay with that you don't know what's going to happen, but you are prepared as much as you can. Like for 9 months, I'm prepared for the pregnancy. Like when it's time, Charlotte screaming at me, cussing me out, I don't give a damn. Like I'm gonna focus on her. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna focus on her. I don't know, and everything's gonna be all right as long as I just do my thing. So if I'm like, I don't know, and like trying to fix all the things during the 9 months and like lift her feet and all these things, and like when the doctor comes yelling at the doctor, like I'm just gonna be frantic. But there's a piece of like, I don't know, because it's kind of like out of my hands in some regard. Now, pregnancy is a big one, like where like you really don't know. You kind of like gotta let just God do his thing. But let's think of a more practical example. So let's say like I don't know. Next, I'm gonna use this in relationships terms, and I'm gonna use an example from like a relationship perspective. So let's see, me and my wife are like talking about something, and she asked me a question, and like I think in the past I would be like, I would try to give an answer like, this is it, like yes, no, like this is the thing, and a lot of the times that would hurt me because I actually didn't know the answer. Like if we like we've been talking about finances lately, and one of the things that like I confessed to her, like, man, when you would talk to me about finances and show me like the charts and like the Excel sheet, I was like, oh yeah, like I know, like I'm following along. I had no idea what the hell she was talking about, none. But I was embarrassed to say I don't know. It was embarrassing for me. But me not saying I don't know to that has hurt me because now I'm behind like how the system works, and maybe I'm overspending on my budget, and maybe I'm buying things for the business that I shouldn't be buying. And if I would have just said I don't know, she could have really taught me, and I would have been ahead of this stuff. Because it's so stupid now, because now when I finally say I don't know and she taught me, I was like, well damn, that was simple. You know what I'm saying? But the fear of not knowing is what kind of kept me distant from like progressing with our finances, all because I was afraid to say I don't know. So what is that really doing for anybody? What is saying yes or no to something that you don't know the answer? What is it doing? It's really hurting you, all because we're afraid of being vulnerable, of not knowing information. And like I said, like everybody has access to information. Like one of these guys who runs a podcast, he always says like we have access to excess, which is a blessing and a curse. But again, I think it goes back to you knowing what you want and just narrowing down. Like, okay, I kind of have some resources that I can rely on for the thing that I'm trying to solve or get to or whatever.
See, what I really like about this conversation is like it's showing the difference between like being like decisive and like having confidence and like blatantly not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because I think like it's good to be decisive. It's good to like have confidence in like your move, your strategy or whatever. But I also think like if you don't know the answer, like you actually are, you're gonna end up taking 2 steps back in the end, like you were saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me with the finances. It's like, well, that was stupid. And the funny thing is like sometimes the answers are so easy. They're so damn easy and they're so simple to like figure out. And then you have a routine and you have some habits to just follow out on that thing. But when you say like yes and no to things that you actually don't know about, you literally put yourself on pause. Like you're just stuck. And then you're wallowing in self-pity because you just know that you don't know. And this thing's going on. It's like, well, I'm just like, I mean, is that what imposter syndrome is? No, not really.
Not really.
No, but it kind of reminds me of imposter syndrome a little bit. But you're just stuck. Like you just feel like it's almost like you're punishing yourself because you feel bad or embarrassed that you don't know, and you're saying that you do know, and you're saying that you do know, and it's like we're just moving on. Like, I remember there's been times where like I've played like board games with people. I have no idea what the hell's going on. Zero. I'm like, oh yeah, like this is. I'm like, bro, I don't know what's going on here. I have no idea what's going on. But I'm gonna act like I know what's going on. And then when I actually understand the board game, I'm actually having a lot of fun because I know what's going on during the game. You know what I'm saying? I should just say at the beginning of the game, like, I don't know how to play. Can somebody teach me how to play? Because everybody else seems like they know how to play. And it's embarrassing that I'm the only one who doesn't know how to play. So I'm not going to say that. I'm just act like I know what's going on. But then when I actually get the rules, I'm having way more fun with my friends who are over playing this board game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So do you think, okay, so here's the other question then. Do you think we would actually be like stronger as like a society if we said I don't know more often?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think we're like weak as a society. I think we're like soft in the fact of like we can't look at the hard work to do. Like we can't figure out how to do the hard thing. So we're soft in that way. But if you say you don't know, it brings down that wall for you to look in the mirror and say, hey, I don't know this, but I'm gonna figure out how to do this. That's what makes somebody like a solid, hardworking individual, not just like lying. You see what I'm saying? Like, like when I think about all these like, because I think a lot of this has to do with hurt too. Like when I think of like a lot of these like alpha male characters, and remember how I said at the beginning that we all are trying to solve a problem within ourselves. On the contrary, some people are solving problems from hurt, and they're doing the wrong thing to put it. They're just slapping a band-aid on like the really difficult thing, which is really making them soft. It's like they're like a jelly bean, right? Like they're hard on the outside but super soft on the inside. And when you don't know the answer and you say you don't know the answer, or if you're hurt and you're okay with saying that you're hurt and solving the thing, it makes you way, way, way tougher because you got to look in the mirror. So yeah, we are soft as a society because we won't say that we don't know. We need to know because it looks like everybody online knows what they're doing. Like, and it's just not true. I remember going to like these online like meetups and stuff, and like you meet these people in person. It's like, damn, like they're a lot different in person. Me too. Like I ain't talking about me too. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't show everything that I do online. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't show everything. But I will say the things that I'm actually talking about and doing in my videos, I'm really, really doing and processing. But I'm not showing like my mannerisms and all this stuff. Like, and one is impossible to capture, if we're being honest. But I'll never forget. We went to this thing called ClamorCon, and there was one woman who was there. Obviously, I'm not gonna mention her name. And on a line, she's like swearing and like being crazy and like ghetto, like just being honest, like being like super crazy online. And then you meet her in person, she's super chill. It's like, what is going on? Like, why can't you just if this is actually you, like why do you do this? And it's because she's caught into like this persona of like what she thinks people want to see from her characteristics of being a black woman and whatever. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, all I have to say, like, I think we are soft as a society, and I think we're living like this really big like jelly bean mentality. It's like you're super hard on the outside, but like, bro, like you're struggling and you're really mushy and soft in the inside. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I would say to that. So yeah, I think that to wrap this conversation up, it's like we all should be okay with saying I don't know. Like I got to everywhere that I wanted to be in my life by saying I don't know, or probably not even saying I don't know, just knowing that I don't know and doing the actual work to figure out the answer. I didn't become a good husband by me saying that I knew the answers. I didn't have the answers. I grew up in 2 divorced homes. You know, I saw many like things that I just saw tough things like in my household. You know, when you have kids, that's the most vulnerable thing ever. It's like I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm gonna figure it out, but I'm becoming a good dad by being okay, saying that I don't know, but I'm gonna find out the answers. You know, and as my kids got older, like I probably made the most mistakes with my oldest child. It's my first one. I got a little bit better with my second one. And with my third one, I got a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? So I'm progressively getting better every day. A football player, I was terrible when I first started playing football, but I looked around to see who had the answers, followed them, took those resources, applied them to my game. Next thing you know, I'm drafted into the NFL X amount of years later. So it was me always just being okay with I don't know, being comfortable with that, doing the work, and letting the work do its thing. All the results that came from my life simply came from just doing the work. Like I sit back and like I'm coaching football now. It's like I tell these kids like, honest to God, bro, I have no idea how I made it to the league. Well, that's not true. Like I know how I made it to the league, but it's not what you think it is. Like I didn't watch football growing up. I had no idea what a Division I school was when I was getting recruited. Had no idea there were different divisions. Didn't know what the Pac-10 or Big Ten. I didn't know any of that stuff. Didn't know where Minnesota was at. Didn't know they played against other big schools. So my story is a testament to like saying I don't know and just doing the work and letting the work do its thing. Like I always say, like you got to play the cards that you've been dealt. And if you know how to do that, you're going to be fine. It's the people who just think they know the answers, or the people who are willing to be complacent and be okay with not knowing the answers and just sit there. And it's like, I'm not willing to do that. You know what I mean? Because I think before being married and having kids, I expected more out of myself. And now that I'm in these roles, it's like I expect more out of myself because I'm leading women, right? My wife and my 3 daughters, I'm leading them now. So I hold myself to a standard to get better, but not to be like the best. Like, what is the best? Like, the best is subjective. Like, I used to have this thought, like, I want to be the best husband and dad ever. And I was like, well, who's going to tell me that I'm the best husband and dad ever? It's them. So I got a whole life to live. They might say that the day that I die. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to just be, hey, at 15, Maddie's not going to come up to me and be like, hey, dad, you're the best dad ever. Maybe she will. She said it to me like at 5, but that don't mean nothing. You know what I mean? Like, she's 5. Like, she just adores me. When she can process her own thoughts in the way that I treat Charlotte, in the way that I treat her, the way that I show up to all her events, then she'll have a real answer from me. Like, dad, like, you're a really good dad, or you're a really bad dad. Like, that's tough. You know what I mean? And that's not a motivating factor for me. Like, for me, is if I'm taking care of myself and doing what I have to do as a person, that trickles into the roles that I'm in. So, yeah, that's all I got. Anything else? So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. Like, I just really believe that saying, I don't know, there's power in that. And if you can just understand that there's ways to find the answers by starting with yourself, and also knowing that the society that we live in now, with like the access to excess of information, and knowing how to go about getting the right information for yourself, you can find out anything. And just know that it's more about the process rather than like a quick solution to getting the thing, because nothing's ever just easily attained. Like, everything takes work, and everything, and at the beginning of everything, it's always hard. So yeah, that's all I got for this episode, and I will see you guys on the next one.